Om Jananim Sharadam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Shritva Pranamami Muhurmuhu. It was a hot day in June 1883. Sri Ramakrishna was sitting on the steps of Shiva temple in temple garden, that is Dakshineshwar. Yam arrived with ice and other offerings and sat down on the steps after saluting the master to Yam. The husband of Mani Malik's granddaughter was here. He read in a book the autobiography of John Stuart Mill, that book's name. Read in a book that God could not be said to be quite wise and omniscient. Otherwise, why should there be so much of misery in the world? As regards death, it would be much better to kill a man all at once instead of putting him through slow torture. Further, the author writes that if he himself were the creator, he would have created a better world. A person was there in presence of Sri Ramakrishna. He reads a book and places before Sri Ramakrishna. It is told in this book. This commonly we see people read something here and there and go to some saintly person to clarify. If it is to clarify the path, it is all right. If it is a casual inquirer, it will not do much good. Going on reading here, there, it is something of display of the pride or something, or display of his intelligence. But a sincere sadhaka may get such doubts. These doubts are entirely different type. I want to go ahead. It is not hair-splitting arguments. It is genuine to go in that path. I am walking in a path and I want to know about it, how to transcend and go. It's valid. He is not at all going, but he goes on discussing about the path. Then it has no meaning in that much, because it's waste of time on either side. He can engage in himself in some other occupation in which he can go ahead at least in some field instead of wasting his time. Now I am a doctor, suppose. I go on discussing about engineering things. I won't be able to fulfill the purpose by understanding those things. But if it is helpful in any way in his life, suppose it's giving him joy, suppose art, I may not be able to do sculpture a image, but to know how they sculpt and how they make a image of it is wonderful to see. I enjoy that him doing. I may not be able to do. A fine building I may appreciate. A flower in the garden I may appreciate. I may not be able to do it. But there, how that flavor came, what are the things, how do you grow? I am not going to have a garden or anything, nor I have a place. But to know it is. But it must help you in some way in your life. It is never going to help in any way, but it is simply discussion for discussion's sake. Then it is called hair-splitting arguments. It goes on arguing. So here also many people come and ask, if there was God, why there is misery, so much of misery in the world. This is most common question asked by people. They don't even understand what God, their conception of God is, He is all capable and He has to do whatever a man thinks to be done. So, why not He remove the suffering of all? There is nature. Have you seen God controlling this one? Have you seen anybody who has received grace of God? Nowhere. One who is ecstatic, in ecstatic love of God. We have not seen at all. But we comment on God, we comment on the world. So, when we start realizing God, slowly, one by one, truth reveals itself. One by one, veil of ignorance falls off. We see the reality. And for that, there is great sacrifice. Man doesn't want to do sacrifice. He wants the fruit of that. If God is there to show me, yes, are you ready for that? Come away. Whole life you spent, sit in a corner and call on God. Let us see how you are not going to realize God. If that much of sacrifice is needed. Ultimately, you have to give yourself entirely unconditionally to God, or love God unconditionally. Give yourself. So these things we don't want to do. And we want God to enter into the life of everyone and then manage everything, remove their suffering. And what will they do if the sufferings are removed? Suppose the unhealthy man, health is given to him, immediately runs after the enjoyments of the world. Many times we feel, why should not be there suffering? When man behaves like an animal, why should not be there suffering? Each is ready to kill another for a morsel of food or a piece of land. For power, he is able to do anything and everything. I want to win. I want to become king. And why should there not be suffering then? This question comes. Then comes the law of karma. Whatever you do, good for good, bad for bad, you have to reap the fruit of your actions. There God doesn't come into picture. He makes the law and then leaves it. So here we see that book was read. Yam. Listen to these words in surprise and made no comment. Yam, listened to these words in surprise and made no comment. Master to Yam, can a man ever understand God's ways? I too think of God sometimes as good, sometimes as bad. He has kept us deluded by His great illusion. Sometimes He wakes us up, sometimes He keeps us unconscious. One moment the ignorance disappears, and the next moment it covers our mind. If you throw a brickbat into a pond covered with moss, you get a glimpse of the water. But a few moments later, the moss comes dancing back and covers the water. Many times, all doubts, we feel, I will be able to love God. And sometimes I do. A tear of drop may appear in my eyes without any seeking, just out of love for God. But the next moment, eyes are dried up. Neither tears nor feelings in the heart. I am again back. Sri Ramakrishna gives the example of a sofa. Inside the sofa there will be springs. The moment you sit on the sofa, it goes inside. The surface is pressed inside. And then the moment you wake up, get up from the seat, again the springs up. It again covers up. Like that, a momentary. Sri Ramakrishna used to compare it to the water sprinkled on a hot pan. Water is put on the pan, choink, it will disappear. So, like that is our love for God. Our feelings, momentary. Next moment we are back to the same worldly atmosphere, worldly thinking, which is, we know all other thoughts other than God and divine are binding and comes out of our attachments and desires. We have no doubt about that. Still, we hold on to those things, and at that time we see the divine, God and spiritual entities have disappeared from the mind. The moment mind is open to the world, the presence of God is no more felt. I am in the world. So that aspect. Can a man understand God's ways? I too think God sometimes has good, sometimes has bad. He kept us deluded by His great delusion. Sometimes He wakes us up, and sometimes He keeps us in unconscious of the reality, unconscious of God, unconscious of the divine. One moment the ignorance disappears. The next moment it covers the mind. He gives the example of brick bat. If you throw in the tank, the moss covering it simply goes away and you can see water. It remains for a few moments. Again the moss slowly spreads back to cover the water. No more you will be able to see water. Water is there, covered by moss. Ignorance is covering the knowledge. Ignorance is covering your realization. You are God. You are the divine. You are everything. You are the Ananda Swarupa. But it's covered by ignorance. The world is still looking real. Just what is that ignorance? Identification with this body. The whole thing is, as I am seeing with all the experiences of my life, I see only thing what is making us bound or suffering or whatever is caused just by identification of body. The day you dissociate from this body, whatever we are doing is to fulfill the demands and needs of this body and mind. The day you become independent of body, you are the pure spirit, you are the ocean of bliss, Ananda, Ananda Sagara. You are that. How that identity comes? This somehow, through prayer or weeping or this or that, or service to people, something you have to do to get rid of this body consciousness. All those, Janaka, he was Videha. So all saints are Videhas. They don't even feel that they possess a body. They attend to it. If pain is there, they go and take medicine, apply. but they are independent of body. They take care, they understand, but they are not suffering within. They are not identifying with this body. So because they dwell in a house called body, they take care of the body. And the body they keep and dwell in it only for sake of others and to obey the orders of God. Nothing they have to achieve anymore. They are purna by themselves within, yet they remain for the sake of the rest of the world. One is aware of pleasure and pain, birth and death, disease and grief, as long as one is identified with the body. See, very clearly Sri Ramakrishna is mentioning here. You have to find your own way. The moment you sleep, you are totally independent of body. While waking up, totally you identify with that same body. After giving anesthesia, even if doctor cuts into a piece of nothing, you will know. The moment you wake up, you see all pain in your body, this, that, so much of identification. Can you remain the same as if you are in dream? Can you remain pervading that body and not being affected by it without identifying? Can you come to the waking state? That is possible only when you once enter into the transcendental realm and come back, where the bond with the physical body breaks off. The Chaitanya bound to the spirit bound to the bodily existence of gross body breaks off. The Brahma Granthi breaks off. After that you are sitting, always like sitting in a car, not being a car yourself. You are sitting in a car, independent of car. Like that you will be sitting in body, independent of body, but I in the body will disappear. Mind will remain for some time till you realize yourself, Atma Jnana. So this struggle, you have to somehow, by hook or crook, something, you have to achieve that state where you are independent of body and living in this body. That's a great challenge, and it has to be done. Saving every moment of life, saving every energy that we are spending in the world, and totally giving yourself to this world and for God is the only way. The love of God, the dedication to God. God is invisible. Equal amount of emphasis must be put on your service you are offering to the world. You can't see God, but what you are seeing the world is God itself. Love of God is incomplete without love of the world. In world, you may not be able to love all beings because your expansion is insufficient. Your feelings are insufficient. Suppose an ant is there. Suppose you step on the ant, you don't mind at all. How much suffering it might be undergoing, we do not know. But same, if man is suffering, I am able to perceive. In man, highest manifestation of consciousness is their Chaitanya. There you can see his reactions to pain. Most of the animals, the momentary they shout and run away, and they are almost like independent of the body. Break the leg of a dog with a stick. How it it will revive for a moment, and with the other three legs, it will run away. limping, it will be moving, searching for it next very day. It is not experienced intensely. Same thing you do for a man. How much he suffers, you can see. Because he is more conscious. Consciousness is more manifest. And the whole consciousness is body consciousness. Does he feel the same suffering when the other man suffers? Then he is expanded to others' level. So when you start loving others, when you start feeling for others, and when you are striving to remove the suffering of others, you are loving God. You are serving God. Doing a worship in temple is an abstract understanding of God, and whether God is really receiving or not cannot be known. Because it's a mental conception. The whole thing is a mental conception and entirely depend on the faith with which have you got a tremendous faith God has eaten and gone. Without touching that material. Very difficult. It needs a very highly polished intellect and heart to feel that I offered to God. God has taken it. He is pleased to find that. How much of faith must be there? Now, that we lose when we normal people like us, we do the worship of God. We do as a formality. Some sadhakas do it as a procedure, as a discipline. But do they really feel? No. But when you come to the mankind, the highest manifestation of Chaitanya, spiritual existence, when you see them, when you start serving them physically, and simultaneously do the spiritual practices, three things must always go together. Studies, studying you, what to study you must know. The tradition in which you are growing, deep understanding of the concepts presented by our elders in that field. Suppose I am Shakta. What does Shakti mean? What are the manifestations of Shakti? How the people are realizing God? Suppose Sri Vidya. How do they walk in that path? All things. Now, suppose I am a Shaiva. Shiva means what? What is that? How the transcendental aspect of Shiva, how do I worship him? What is his qualities? How does it differ from the other devatas? All these aspects. Now, these are the things. We move in faith, but when it comes to the actuality, it must be supported, the studies must be supported by your action in the world, loving people at gross physical level, run to serve. The moment you hear some suffering, great wars are taking place. Can you imagine the suffering people are undergoing there? With children and all. Leave the houses as they are. Some are broken down, some are destroyed. And run, day and night. In between, some children die, some people die, some attacks are there. And those, Yatisharanji's diary I saw, Second World War. The bomb has blasted in front of their, where he stayed in Germany. He sees the body in his very front of his eyes, a bomb falling and blasting. The house has come down to the roof, just soil, and all are dead. And people around, they the blasting, hitting. Somebody has lost his hand, he is rolling, hand has fallen somewhere, and his leg is somewhere. And you may see the undergoing that suffering. Can you bear? Can you tolerate? Even the sight we won't be able to bear. So it's very tragic, and then again in our heart we don't feel. We don't weep. We don't pray to the Lord. Oh Lord, if it is inevitable, if it is a part of creative process, give them strength to bear. At least that much prayer. Avoid if you can, otherwise give them the strength to bear. So these prayers will purify your heart, make up all the defects in you. Now your heart has to expand through love and service to humanity. Every day some kind of service somewhere, if not sitting in prayer to help them. Whatever work you can do, run and do. Then study and spiritual practices. Without spiritual practices, you will not understand scriptures. Without scriptures, you will not feel the presence of suffering in mankind, and mankind as divine is equal to me. Whether it happens to him or not to me is same. I don't feel. Intellectually we understand first through scriptures. Then we enter to feel it ourselves directly. Through service, I identify the divine within. So the three things must constantly be, you have to follow and it has to follow you. Scriptures, studies means, so any books and open the mobile and wherever, whatever you get, he is giving some lecture, she is giving some lecture on spiritual matters. These things, sit and hear and leave it there and go ahead. No. Realize souls, what they have written. What are our scriptures, basic scriptures? Vedas are there, Puranas are there. So many things are there which inspire you and take you along. So, scriptures, service to humanity, if not to other. And then, your spiritual practices deep. When you sit for japa, forget the world. Drop away the world. When you sit for meditation, you have to transcend the bodily awareness and enter into higher levels of consciousness. No laziness, no dullness. Most of the people sit and enter into dullness. They become like stone. No feelings, no thinking. And some people enter into sleep. No, nothing of this. Clear presence of God. I am able to see the form. Yes, I am able to. Each thing making more and more clear. The fingers, the hand, all parts. Little by little you expand. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.